Sonic News! A new show appears! It's super effective! I am SSF. Why? Pull my finger, please. Please? No? Screw you. I was polite. Ugh.
Welcome to Sonic Land.
Live from the magnificent state of Virginia, here's your host, the news dude of Sonic Paradox, Sonic Sega fan, 1991. Sonic News.
And there we are, and of course everyone gets to hear me say that phrase again. Welcome to all my 3 viewers. Welcome to the SonicNews Show, and, well, it's a pretty interesting show. Because everyone has been aware of all the guests I've had as of late. Oh my god, so many guests. So many, there's so many that I can't even count right now. But, oh, hi Twitter. Suddenly Twitter. We have quite a few, things to talk about. It's been a busy week with the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise. Oh my god. What a week. It's, like I said, a lot to talk about. But the best thing is that I'm not alone in this. For once, I actually have, I actually have a guest here. And it's probably not a guest you were thinking of, because this site doesn't do, participate in podcasts a whole lot. In fact, it's kind of rare, but this is probably monumental in this site's history. I know, I wouldn't be surprised, but Lewis from TSSZ News is here.
Hello.
Hi. Yes. Yes. We have...
Yeah, present and correct. Ready to go.
Yep. All set to go. We have... only downside is that we haven't really been able to reach contact with the rest of the TSSZ News staff. Although, if they do want to be in the show, they can just contact one of us.
Absolutely more than welcome.
Yep. Even though the show has begun, they still have a chance of being in the show. And I'm just now tweeting that the show's live because I am so professional at this.
It's multitasking.
Yes, I am absolutely a king when it comes to multitasking.
It's a quality skill.
Indeed. And making sure the link is in there because everyone needs to see the link. Has to have the link in the tweet. Okay. But yes, guys, for I think the first time in God, I don't know when the last time anyone from TSSZ has actually been in a show, like a podcast, let alone.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, there was a time way back when, well before I was here, that Tristan did a podcast of his own on TSSZ with help from the rest of the staff at that time. And I can't speak much for it because, again, it was, well before my, my entry into this whole thing. But it did exist in its own form for, a long period of time. So beyond that, I can't really speak to, who's been where and by how much,
Yeah, the way I was just reading up on TSSZ News' history just the other day, in fact. And it seems like the last podcast of any kind happened before TSSZ went down in 2004, something like that.
Yeah, I'll actually pull that page up and see what it actually says, but I don't remember the details offhand. But that might take a little bit. So, that's policies. That's totally know my way around my own site.
Yeah. I guess I should clarify for those who don't know who Lewis is, because when they think of, I can't, it's not a bad thing, but when, not necessarily a bad thing, but when people think of TSSZ News, they think mostly of Tristan because he's the main guy there. But
Oh yeah, and that's probably, a safe thing to say, and which isn't bad by any means because he's kind of been the blood that keeps the whole thing pumping, if I can say that. He's very passionate about the site, and we all kind of fall under his you know experience, I guess, because he's been doing this for a lot longer than I think the rest of us have been. And there's varying degrees of quote unquote experience on the team, but it's a cool place to be.
yeah, it sounds like you guys do have fun. I mean, there are moments, occasionally, but for the most part, it's you guys do have fun time together, and you guys have your own correspondences, however the hell you say it, in the other countries, and you guys are passionate. I have to give you guys that much credit. You guys do what you do, and when you guys are at your best, it shows very well.
I hope so.
Like,
Actually, I have the bit here that I was looking for. Uh, Quoting a few months back in January of 2000. That's more than a few months. Tristan began with weekly radio duties in addition to monthly real media podcasts. So he started in that whole kind of realm very early on, actually, far far before any of us, joined up.
in other words, it's long before I started my damn show, pretty much.
Probably.
Because I started mine as for those who've actually been following me for a while enough, especially in recent shows, know that my show started up in February of 2011, back when I was still getting it off the ground as like the news reporter for SP. But once, I actually did a reboot around my birthday last year, as a matter of fact, which is kind of coincidental since my birthday just passed. But the reboot of the Sonic News Show actually happened in April, I think it was April 16th, 2011, which I technically considered to be season 2 of the show. And then I consider season 3 to be in autumn, like when I started doing shows in the autumn time.
Mhm.
So I did some calculating. I think I'm in the 30s or 40s in terms of the episode count. I don't know the exact amount because I was stupid enough to not track that, but um yeah,
Oversight.
yeah, pretty much. I think that TCC does have a lot of things they can claim to their belt, like being around early on to experience Y2K, and
Hmm.
I believe Sonic Stadium and Sonic Retro were also around at that time, just getting off the ground. Although
Yeah.
I think Sonic Stadium started up about a year later than TSSC, and then Sonic Retro I think was around a year earlier, I want to say.
It might have been. I'm actually not sure on that.
And the last thing we need to do is look up that stuff too, so
Yeah. That'll take a little longer, but you never know.
yeah. But
Yeah, I think, and it says here, on April 2nd, 1999, TSSZ relaunched on wares.com, and in August of 1998 it began. So that's kind of that weird gray area phase of the internet where everyone was just kind of getting their feet wet. It's starting to get mainstream. People are realizing what this thing can do, and it was an interesting time. I remember, I mean, I was pretty young around that stage, and I wasn't really into, excuse me, Sonic at all, actually, at the time. But that weird little, what I call internet infancy, which I guess I just started calling it that, is interesting. It's fun to kind of look back on it now that the internet is what it is. It's just massive, hulking, awesome thing that just exists and has integrated itself into so many people's lives. It's fun to look back at a time when it wasn't even close to that and consider how everything worked in those days when it and access to it was so limited.
yeah, it's the internet was a lot different then than it is now, no question about it. And
AOL and dial up and
oh god,
the screechy noise.
AOL was so it was so primeval back then, and 1999.
It was quite the time. You'd plug in your little dial-up modem jack in the house, block all the family's phone calls for an hour or two, go on, hear the screechy noise for 30 seconds. Finally the welcome screen comes up. You've got mail. You go in, check the mail that you actually don't have, and videos. You'd go in, watch a video that's the size of a postage stamp, and websites are all text, and you're lucky if you have one little like smiley face gif bouncing around at the bottom of the page. And then half an hour later you'll get kicked off because someone has been calling for the past 20 minutes, and your billing cycle is for unlimited use. So you have spent 27 minutes online. Thank you for using America Online. You're welcome.
And that pretty much sums up 1999. No, there's more that sums up 1999, but AOL was definitely one of those things back then.
And may it never happen again.
Yeah, that's what happens when you have an internet that's so primeval as it was back in the late 90s. And as for me, 1998, 1999, when TSSZ started, I was not really like as dedicated to Sonic as I am now either. Like, in fact, I was playing Sonic games back then, but it was not as extensively, it wasn't as extensive as it is now, where I only had like a few Sonic games. In fact, I only had two Sonic games in 1999, which was Sonic Spinball and Sonic 2 on the Genesis. I didn't even know about the Sega Saturn. I didn't even know about the 32X or the CD. I didn't know about the even the Dreamcast, I believe. I think there might have been a commercial too, I recall seeing vaguely, but I never really paid any mind that it was a Sega console. I just recall seeing like, before they actually plugged that it was Sega Dreamcast or whatever, but
Right.
in 1999, it was mostly Sonic 2 and Sonic Spinball for me all the time. And I guess that partly contributes to why I'm so good at those games, because I played them for so extensively in my childhood, and then
That would do it, yeah. A decade later.
yeah, it's it was a crazy time for me when it came to video games, and it's rather amusing how much in the dark I was up until when I got Unleashed and Gems Collection. That was pretty. I'll just say this much: I had Mega Collection around when I was 12, which was like 2003, 2004. In fact, it was 2004 that I was 12, but I think I had it in 2003 though. But I had some Mega Collection, and it's unbelievable. If I had just looked in the game a little bit more, I would have found out about Amy. I would have known about Amy. I would have known about possibly Metal Sonic. I would have known about the Sonic movie. I would have known about Sonic Advance more. I would have known about Sonic X. There's so many things I would have found out if I had just been looked in those games a little bit more, looked at the content.
Right.
And
Now,
it's just wacky. And even when I got Sonic Gems Collection, I had seen like I saw like screenshots of what had turned out to be Sonic Heroes cutscenes, and I'm looking at them and I'm wondering, who's that? Who's this? Who's that?
so many characters.
Yeah, and I see what turned out to be Amy. I'm wondering, who's this girl? It turns out it's the same girl that I was just seeing in Sonic CD on Gems Collection, but it turns out she got a makeover. I didn't even know that at the time.
Oh, did she ever? Yeah.
Like they changed her so much, I did not even realize that was also Amy. That's how much in the dark I was.
Yeah.
But it wasn't.
Well, I think I would actually beat you out a little bit on that, in the sense that up until probably '05 or '06, I really hadn't even touched a Sonic game, period, up to that point. We were a completely Nintendo house growing up. My first console was the Nintendo 64 and the Game Boy Pocket. And, one of my first games, actually, this is one of the few genuine, like, stories I have to tell. I was about 5 years old, and I landed up in the hospital for something that, I don't really remember. I was hooked up to IV machines and in there for, a week or two, and it was a lonely time. And one of those days when I was in there, one of the nurses wheeled in a cart with a decent-sized TV on it and a Nintendo 64 underneath it. And she said, this is just something to help you pass the time. Hopefully you like it. It's called Super Mario 64. So she put Mario 64 in the console, turned it on, gave me the controller, and I had never seen anything like that before. 5-year-old me really didn't know what video games were. So seeing this thing where it's this 3D world and Mario can jump and run and climb on things and I can make him do everything absolutely blew my mind. So when I got out of the hospital, I convinced my parents to buy me an N64 for Christmas, heavily implying to Santa and whatnot. I had a Game Boy Pocket around that same time. I had Donkey Kong Land 2 as my first game for that. And when I got that N64 for Christmas, I had that and Mario Kart 64, and that pretty much that changed my life forever in that it got me into the gaming fold. And then, about 10 years later, actually my first Sonic game that I ever played was in total accident, believe it or not. One of my friends came over my house, left his entire collection of Game Boy Advance games in his case in my room. So I was digging through them, seeing what he had, because I'm a snoop and whatever, and he had a game called Sonic Advance 2. And I said, this is interesting. I might have heard of something like this before. So I popped it in the Game Boy, played it, and I thought, this is interesting. And, Sonic Advance 2 isn't a great game by any stretch, but I was intrigued by the concept. I said, he just goes really fast. I want to play other games with this character that go real fast. So I then found Sonic Mega Collection and Sonic Gems for the GameCube, and I played all the old titles, the Genesis and Sonic CD and all the more obscure ones, and I thought, this is great. So at that point, I kind of got hooked and fell into the fold around that time. And that was around the time when Sonic 06 was about to rear its ugly head. So it was an interesting time getting into a franchise when it's basically at its lowest point.
Yeah.
But we stuck with it, and I think we're in better shape now, at any rate.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I was somewhat of the same way when it came to actually really getting the Sonic around the point where it was at its lowest point. But I think in 2006, I still did not really have that many Sonic games. But it sounds to me like you personally just the Sonic franchise just stumbled upon you.
Yeah, or I stumbled upon it. It was a happy accident. So if he didn't leave Sonic Advance 2 over my house that day, I might not be in the position that I'm in right now. I mean, maybe I would have, maybe I wouldn't be. It's tough to say, but it's an interesting place to be anyway. Happy accident.
Yeah, it just goes to show that Sonic can find make new fans even in the most unusual moments. In this case, just yeah, pretty much. But I mean, it is kind of interesting how you stumbled across Sonic Advance 2 first, before any other Sonic game.
Of all games I had to play first, it was Sonic Advance 2. Which, that's about as weird a choice as I think you can make, not of your own volition, but it's... And I have very mixed opinions about Advance 2 to this day, I'd be tempted at points to give it preferential treatment because, it's my first game and, nostalgia for whatever reason. No. It's about how I would describe it.
It's kind of the same with me and Spinball. Sonic Spinball was one of the very, very first video games I ever played. It was, as in, I literally was playing the game on my own. But when it comes to Sonic Spinball's quality, it's I enjoy it thoroughly. It's a fun game for me because I actually can beat the damn game, and I
actually went a winter or two ago when I actually got my hands on a Genesis. I scooped up the original Sonic trilogy off eBay with Spinball, and I actually have ended up spending the most time on the Genesis playing Spinball over the original trilogy that I now have, and games like Desert Strike and Last Action Hero. God knows why I have that one, and all the rest of the titles on there. Spinball is the one that takes up the most time. It's oddly fun.
It's just one of those games you can't you have to complete it over and over and over again. I mean, it might be difficult, but it is fun in some ways.
It's different, and if I recall correctly, it was one of the first, if not the first, major spin-off for that franchise because it was still in its infancy in those days, and people didn't react to it super positively when it first came out, if I believe the things I've read. But I think it's held up awfully well. It has a got a unique little art style, and its controls work, and it just kind of fits itself into place very nicely.
Yeah, it just depends on exactly how well you can control Sonic. Because if you can move Sonic around enough, like if you can just deviate his path a little bit with the control stick and or the D-pad and
Mhm.
various other buttons, you can easily get Sonic where you want him to go.
That was the defining feature for me, having just that slight bit of control over where Sonic's going after you slap him up off the bumpers.
Yeah,
Was just it was a little more fun because you weren't forced to just sit there and watch the game play itself. Essentially, you had that tiny little bit of control. It wasn't much, but it was just enough to make you feel engaged and think, this is good. I'm going to keep sinking more time into this. And at the same time, it also made it a little harder because not only do you have to worry about juggling him in the air while he's there, you got to remember, where the flippers are and keep track of everything at the same time while, adjusting where Sonic's going to try to get your maximum score and get all the Chaos Emeralds and blah, blah, blah.
yeah, it was a fun game. I mean, and the emeralds they hid pretty well. Like you don't.
Some of those are tough. When you get to the machine, the third level, it ramps up considerably.
Yeah, because they give you more emeralds that you have to get. But
It does. I actually had some trouble with Lava Powerhouse when I first started tackling that level, just because it was set up a little counterintuitively, at least how I first looked at it. But the machine is not easy, and I'm glad because it's kind of a short game when you think about it. There's 4 boards,
yeah,
those little bonus stage thingies in between, and giving it that increased difficulty is good, as opposed to it being too easy. And it fits a nice balance. It's not too easy, but it's not obnoxiously short and hard like I think Back to the Future Part 3 on Genesis is, the one where you're on the horse and there's stuff coming at you and you gotta dodge it.
yeah.
It's not frustratingly difficult, but it's enough to keep you engaged, and that works, I think.
Like the game is successful. I mean, and it's just when you play it a lot, you quickly begin to realize, hey, I know where all the emeralds are, and then I'm getting them quickly. Like when my birthday stream happened this past what was it, Sunday? No, Tuesday was my birthday. This past Tuesday on my birthday, I did a big stream to mark the occasion, playing a bunch of games I used to play as a little kid, and Spinball was among them. It was probably the last game I had played. When I got to the machine, I was able to get I think 4 emeralds within a minute
Wow.
because I simply knew where they all were and
Right.
I knew how to get to them and I was used to how the areas control. Like I now know where my troublesome spots are.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know where I die at and how I've played it so extensively. I know where every single one of my problems are and I know every nook and cranny of the game. It's crazy how you can have so much knowledge about a game that people overall don't exactly or they're mixed about.
Oh yeah. It all comes through repetition. If you really like a game, you're gonna play it and you're gonna play it and you're gonna play it. You're gonna come to understand its little nuances. You'll be able to take advantage of certain things that more novice players won't be able to. And I sound like a complete, stuck up jerk sitting here. Well, when you understand the basics of this game and you come to know the more advanced elements, you can become much better and therefore not suck at it. Which is not the intent of that little rant there, but I think the point remains the same. The more you play a game, the better you're obviously going to get at it, and the more nuanced it becomes. So it becomes an altogether different beast, I think, once you're more familiar with it.
Yeah. I just wonder what would have happened if I wasn't a pinball fan from the beginning, because I played not just Sonic Spinball, but a couple of other pinball games, and back then, and I guess it was just my love of pinball that kept me attached to Spinball for so many years, and I still do have a love of pinball. I guess it's just
3D pinball on Windows XP.
I remember playing that too.
That was I remember when XP first launched. That was that was everybody's thing in grade school. You wanted to be the best in your class at 3D pinball. when I was in 5th or 6th grade, we would take our recesses, get permission from the teacher, sit in the little cluster of computers in the back of our room and just play 3D pinball over and over and over. And, sometimes they would get mad because we'd run into class time and we'd never go outside. And I think that's probably why she didn't like us that much. But it was fun, and that's what matters.
Yeah, I mean, you guys, it's pinball. I mean, it has its, levels of fun and it doesn't. It just depends on what the pinball game is. And I guess, it helps I'm also good at pinball as a whole, because I can easily get loads and loads of points in a pinball game in a hurry. But like I said, I guess that's just, how it is, and maybe that's probably the reason why I'm so good at pinball, is because of the fact that I'm just, pinball as a whole, I have no problem playing.
Absolutely.
And then it turns out we've been yapping about nostalgia for the last 25 minutes.
Not getting anywhere with the list of things to talk about.
Yeah. This is not actually surprising. Welcome to the SonicNews Show, guys, where we talk about everything.
Literally everything.
Yes. Including something we really should have shut up about 10 minutes ago.
Pinball. Of all things. Pinball,
yes.
why not?
Yeah, let's talk about pinball for 25 minutes.
People need a little pinball in their lives.
Yeah.
Look to them now.
Oh, we're kings of pinball, I guess.
Well, you might be. I'm not.
Uh,
I'm good at spinball. I'm not great at pinball overall.
But I mean, hey, we have fun. We have our moments.
Fun happens.
So much so we talk about it for 25 minutes. But
I guess so.
Yeah. I guess now we should actually, get into the show.
Maybe. Is there pinball in the show?
I hope not.
We can fix that.
Yeah, we can fix that. Well, onward to talking about, Sega of Europe's. This is actually kind of, because I was starting at the community, like the topic list 2 weeks ago, so topics from 2 weeks ago are still kind of in this, but the Sega of America, or not America, but Sega of Europe Community Team Division is no more.
Yeah, that was a shock to a lot of people, I think.
I think the restructuring of Sega was also pretty shocking, but the fact that the Community Team Division being completely wiped off, it's just, that was sad, and it's not really surprising, I guess, that one of the people that were part of that community team, Kevin Eva, actually made the original story. So, I mean, and on Radio Redux a couple weeks ago, he did talk about the consequences this could have, and it's not going to be good. It could affect Summer of Sonic in the future, especially, and because they were the ones that kind of helped, get stay in contact with the Summer of Sonic people so they can, work out venues and everything, and say this is good and this isn't. And they don't have that, anymore. They don't have that ability to. They are going to struggle a bit more in getting their say in, I think, pretty much. And I don't think it's going to affect Summer Sonic as a whole. I don't think it's going to get canceled because of this.
As far as I know, it's still
going.
on the block to keep going, yeah.
And there's even a topic related to Summer Sonic occurring later on this year, later on in the show. But yeah, Summer Sonic is not going to get affected too heavily from this. They're going to have difficulties, talking with Sega of Europe to get, their way. But for the most part, the convention is still going to keep going year after year. It's not until the the founders leave and the people that join are not actually, either no one joins, replaces them, or it turns out that they're just not gonna, the people that do join are not as passionate about the convention as the founders were, and they just decide, they eventually lose boredom and say, hey, this thing's canceled. But the way it's looking, I don't think that's gonna happen anytime soon. I think we're gonna be seeing Summer Sonic for a good long while. In fact, if it's all true and everyone's saying Sega's gonna be done in 5 years, I think Summer Sonic could go even further than that. Like, I think it could go even 7, 8 years, depending. I mean, it's all
It
depending on how much the
it
staff.
it depends on not only, the staff's willingness to keep putting the convention on year after year, but it also depends maybe even more heavily on fan input and turnout, because ultimately conventions like these can only succeed when the fans are willing and able to attend and enjoy the festivities. Because if you're going to rent out a massive convention hall and 35 people show up, why would you even bother? But if you have the kind of passion and desire to make the stuff happen that the Sonic community does, then if that passion stays, then the conventions that express that will stay as well.
Yeah, and a case in point, Summer Sonic has actually been gaining year after year more and more
It
attendance.
has, yeah.
They've been getting more and more viewers every single year, and I've noticed their venues are getting larger and larger too.
Yep, and they have to accommodate that. And I think Sega and Sonic Team have, increasingly embraced the convention on top of that.
Because
Because,
it,
community manager turnout, increases year after year. Staff, drop by and say hi and stuff like that. So
yeah,
that never hurts.
yeah, even just what they managed to accomplish last year with Yuji Naka and,
Hmm.
the current head of Sonic Team, Zuka being in there.
Yep.
That I believe that was the first time they both were ever in the same building together. Like, and also it being seen, like being
Yeah,
public.
that's something like that. Yeah.
And only Summer Sonic has been able to accomplish this. And Sonic Boom, as great as it is, it's directly with Sega. So if
Right.
Sega were to, go out in 5 years, so would Sonic Boom. There's no
Right.
there's no question about it. Sonic Boom would go out if Sega also went out. Because, like I said, Sega and Sonic Boom are within the same. Sonic Boom is part of Sega, whereas Summer
Right.
Sonic is only slightly part of Sega, but mostly with fans.
Right.
So Summer Sonic will hold its ground more because it's being dealt with fans, with money and everything. Whereas Summer Sonic Boom is strictly Sega's doing, and
Right.
that's gonna if Sega does get knocked out, Sonic Boom's gonna collapse with it because it's not gonna go on without the people who keep the convention going in the first place.
Hmm.
But as for Summer Sonic, it's gonna keep going. I mean, even if Sonic Boom does go out, Summer Sonic will still be around. There's no question about it. It's gonna take even if it starts to down if this year were the start of a downtrend, even after this year, I it would still go for a few more years afterwards because it's got that much steam with it, you know. It's got that much momentum, that much steam that it will continue to go for a while, even if it started a downward trend this year.
Right.
And there's no question in my mind that Summer Sonic has officially become the convention for Sonic. I mean, Sega can brag about Sonic Boom all they want, but the way it's looking, I think Summer Sonic is the main deal, to be honest. It's like the E3 of the Sonic franchise, pretty much.
Pretty
Because,
much, I would think.
I mean,
Now, I mean, I can't speak for it myself because I actually haven't been to either of them. I'd like to, but that poses, some
yeah,
transportational and logistic issues that I would have to overcome pretty readily. But
yeah,
I don't know. I think there's definitely merit to both of them, and it's more helpful, especially in Sonic Boom's case, to have a convention wherever it is that's stateside in the U.S., so Sonic fans don't have to pony up to get over to England every year.
yeah. It's just the thing is, if they really want to meet like a good portion of the big Sonic figures, they'd have to go to Summer Sonic for that. Like Sonic Paradox has been at Summer Sonic. There's even video that of us being a few of the animators being interviewed by Dark Speeds, Elson Wong of he's a good fan of SP and likes making artwork and things like that, community projects. And he interviewed, like I said, a few of the animators. I think people from Sonic Stadium have been there, people from Sonic Retro have been there, people from Sonic Rex have been there. Kevin and Eva, coincidentally, was one of the founders of uh, Summer Sonic, and I don't know if TSSZ News was there. I think you guys had correspondence there before, but As for
I
this,
don't remember if we've covered it directly.
yeah, it would be kind of fair if you guys did, because of course, as I said, Summer Sonic is the big thing for the Sonic franchise. If not, if
Right.
it wasn't E3, because E3 is the biggest video game convention ever.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. But it doesn't. Sonic gets very, very little involvement in E3. And case in point, last year, for E3, the most Sonic news we got were a few new details about Generations and a new trailer, for the most part. And I
Mm.
think something else, but Sonic news was very, very, very little at E3 last year, as I recall.
Right.
So Summer Sonic makes up for this in ways no one can even imagine, because it's everything Sonic. I mean, you cannot find a more Sonic-y place than Summer Sonic, other than Sonic Boom perhaps. But as I said, Sonic Boom, they don't. Sega doesn't. I think Summer Sonic does more things for the fans, Summer Sonic, than Sonic Boom did. Sonic Boom did not exactly do a whole lot last year, to be honest. And I believe it only went for a single day, where Summer Sonic, well, yeah, Summer Sonic does go for a good day as well, but I think it goes a lot longer. Like, I believe it goes for a good 5, 7 hours, I want to say. But
Hmm. I don't know actually off the top of my head
I if
about
I'm
either length of either.
If I remember correctly, Summer Sonic, I know Summer Sonic ended around 6 p.m. Eastern Time last year, but I think it began at like 9, 10 in the morning. So it goes for a good long while. Yeah, 11 hours. 'Cause they get so many things they got to show off. They have to
Yeah.
show off so many things. Like last year they had to show off a preview of, Volume 8 7 rather, 'cause we at the time we didn't have an idea of Volume 8 yet. But Volume 7 of the Sonic shorts was shown a preview. Um, Sonic Cavania sang "Live and Learn" at the end, and of course everyone remembers saying "Happy Birthday, Sonic" uh, at the end as well. I
Hmm.
mean, they do so many things, and it's not just that. You can even if they when there's not anything going on, you could just go around and snoop around and no pun intended,
Hmm.
and and look at the tribe demos of upcoming Sonic games and eat chili dogs and hang out with fans and
There's got to
give
be chili dogs, of
interviews and
course.
yeah, they take their sweet old time getting to each, next event in the convention, and I like that. They say they do all this in one day, which makes it even more remarkable. I mean, it's saying a lot, and to think that's going to happen again, and I think it was July 7th, I want to
I
say.
think so. I think it's the 7th
Yeah, July 7th.
in the London area.
Yeah, there are rumors going. They say there are rumors going around that they might actually have to go into one of the suburbs of London, according to the most recent blog post. They are probably gonna have to go to the most recent like go around in the little area because they're having some difficulties with venue. But apparently now, as of today, I think they did work out a venue and they're just finalizing it. And
Hmm.
my dream, I think the ultimate dream I have as a Sonic fan is going to Summer Sonic and E3 someday. There's no
Yeah.
doubt in my mind that someday, some year, hopefully within the next 5 years, I would love to go to Summer Sonic and E3. Hell, I
Yeah.
have never ridden a freaking plane before, and the fact that I would want to go into a plane for the first time all the way to the freaking UK to attend Sonic Convention really shows how much I'm dedicated.
Yeah. That's quite the trip. I think I've had it on my list, for a while too, to try to get out, not necessarily even to just Sonic conventions like Sonic Boom or Summer Sonic, but to big conventions in general. And I think, E3 is on the list, PAX East is on the list for sure, some kind of Comic Con maybe. But now that I think about it, I was supposed to get out to PAX East this year, and I wanted to talk to the people about Sonic 4 Ep 2 and get my hands on with that. Do some kind of write up and have a good time out there with a few people from work and etc. And of all the weekends that it could have been on, it happened to be Easter, so that fell through pretty quickly. When family and game kind of butt heads, family wins. So at some point, E3 would be great. PAX East would be great. Sonic Boom or Summer Sonic would be interesting. There's a lot that can happen, but whether or not that actually happens and how long that takes is it's a little bit of a different beast.
It highly depends on, the main problem with getting to those two conventions is money. Like, there's no question about it. Especially with
Yeah,
E3, because E3, I think it costs like $500 just to get a ticket, let alone actually get to the convention.
maybe even higher. So there's quite a there's an uphill battle for that, regardless. I think if I remember, 3-day passes for PAX were something like $65 or $70. You have to factor in lodgings because PAX is a multi-day affair. I live about 5 hours outside of Boston, so I would have to factor in train travel. I wouldn't drive into Boston, no sir. And plane that distance may not be necessary. So regardless, there's still some decent transportation costs that you have to get hit with. And it's, there's a lot of logistics planning and stuff like that in any convention like this that you would try to attend, whether it's 5 hours away across the country or across an ocean. It's not an easy task. So if you're going to go, like you said, you have to have a certain degree of passion and enthusiasm for whatever you're going to. And to follow through on a plan like that would, speak pretty highly to your attempt at any rate.
Yeah, it's just, it all depends on what the money is and your transportation, if you have any, and among a few other things. But when you actually, if you're able to get there and, have fun, you can have the time of your life there. Like, it makes up for all the inconveniences you had to deal with. Just being able for that one day to hang out and have loads of fun. And there's no doubt in my mind that if I did go to Summer Sonic, it wouldn't matter if I had, lost quite a bit of dollars from spending stuff at there, while I was there. I imagine doing a few interviews because, well, not often. It's not exactly often that anyone from Sonic Paradox actually does show up at Summer Sonic, because I believe, like I said, that video interview that Dark Speeds did with a few of the animators in 2009 for Summer Sonic 2009. That was probably the first and only time anyone from SB had been there at Summer Sonic.
Yeah.
So SP as a whole, it's a very, very popular site. Like, I consider it like a step below, the big sites like, Sonic Stadium, Sonic Retro, Sonic Rex, TSSZ News. I think Sonic Paradox is just like a slight level below that.
Right.
And they get a lot of attention. They get a lot of viewers. They have a lot of fans, and when people actually know who they look like, that's the thing about the site, is that not many people know what we look like. I mean,
yeah, oh yeah, God, yeah.
They recognize us as our animations. They don't actually recognize us with our faces. So
yeah.
It makes a huge difference when they actually see us face to face and think, this is what you look like. You're not.
This is who you are. Okay.
Yeah, it strikes them as odd because they're so used to seeing our animations that they're not actually used to seeing our faces.
Yeah, it's the same deal with us. Most of the time, actually all the time, aside from conventions and things like that, you would only really come to know our news staff via what we write. And, Tristan writes very heavily for the site, so people, he shares his opinions in the comments, and people come to understand, his style and his view on things through that. Ryan Bloom pops up from time to time. We can interact with him. I do weekly things on the site, so I'm posting a bit more than everyone else. And it raises an interesting point, too, with people like Solus who, only pop in for special features or, correspondence like Danny Russell over in Japan. You not even just not seeing their faces, but, having a limited amount of material that they've contributed makes it interesting to, get to know who's behind everything that you see on these sites every day.
Yeah, it really strikes off as rather amazing. Like, you don't expect anything of that sort to happen. And when it comes to Summer of Sonic, where everyone seems to be there, you really get overwhelmed with ability to, meet so many people. Like, as in case last year, you had Yuji Naka, who was the original creator of Sonic, and then you had various other people. There's Crush 40, who's widely considered to be the most epic Sonic band of all time, I almost want to say. And they were there for 2010, for the record. And I think last year they also had what was that band? They did This Machine, and Sonic Heroes. What were they?
What about Sonic Heroes?
I'm trying. They're the band that did This Machine and Sonic Heroes, the theme for Team Dark. I forget who they were.
Let's find
Julian
out.
K. Julian K. They were also at Summer Sonic last year, and that was I believe, their very, very first performance at anything Sonic-like since, yeah, it was pretty crazy.
I would imagine.
It was,
Yeah, we have, what do we have? Rabbit Noodle saying here, I spend about 100 euros at Summer of Sonic. You can't help but splash the cash. I can totally sympathize with that. Absolutely. Actually, tangent time. A couple of weeks ago, Nintendo held this is completely off topic, but I at least am reminded of this. A couple of weeks ago, Nintendo had their annual Pokemon VGCs, the video game championships. The regional tournaments were the weekend of April 15th, and I went down with a couple of my friends to compete and, take part in the festivities, and you wind up seeing so many things that you just want when you're there that you wouldn't have access to normally, that you gotta scoop it up. There was a vendor there while we were in between battles. It was an intense time, but there was a vendor in between battles that was selling, holographic cards from all sets all throughout the history for $1 a piece. So I was just scooping them up like nuts. I didn't intend to. I wanted, a fair amount of cash for the trek home, which I ended up not having because of that kind of thing. And I don't actually see it as a negative because it's fun. You're getting access to things that you wouldn't have normally, and you want to kind of commemorate that on some level, I think. So
yeah,
it's a
like
fun time when stuff like that happens.
it's fun when you do things, for the community, and meeting people can be really fun too, especially if they're the right person. And like, as I said at Summer Sonic, I imagine if I were to go within the next, some day, some year, because considering it does happen once a year, and if it were to happen some year, it would definitely be one time of the life I'd have, because I do consider myself a dedicated Sonic fan, but I think my official christening as a Sonic fan would be at Summer Sonic, because, as I said, that's where really the hardcore Sonic fans
Yeah,
go to.
you're there because you want to be there.
Yeah, it's
Which is, I think, how it works. And it was the same with the VGCs. And I met a lot of cool people there. And I mean, it's a competitive atmosphere because everyone's technically, facing off against everyone else because everyone wants to make that top cut. But at the same time, it's an incredibly supportive and friendly atmosphere because everyone is there because of their love of Pokemon. And I would imagine that it's the same thing at any of the Sonic conventions that go on. You're there because of your love for the franchise, and you are able to meet with and bond with other people, excuse me, that share that same passion, and having that common ground is important.
definitely. I mean, if I were to go to Summer Sonic some time in the future, like within the next 5 years or so, I could imagine, um, considering this does happen in the UK, like that's the main problem. The only problem I think Summer Sonic has is that it's in the UK and not everyone's able to get to there easily. That's
Using my hand over here.
But yeah, once Summer Sonic does, once you're actually able to get there, it can be the time of your life, as I said. And I imagine if I were to go to Summer Sonic, I'd probably do interviews because I'd say I've become pretty well known in the Sonic, community now. Like
Mhm.
just about every site now is aware of me in some way, and I'd imagine I could see myself doing an interview or two if need be, if anyone wanted it. And you know, hell, if it
Never.
turned out like if there were some content to present, like if SP had some kind of animation to show off. If they wanted me to
They're
get
right
up on
there, yeah.
stage and show it off, there you go. Because I'd imagine I would probably be one of the few, if not the only, person from SP that would be there. Because, as I said, people from the site don't really show up at Summer Sonic often, and when they do, it can be interesting, as I say, because, like I said, it's rare that anyone from the site does show up, and it's a
Right.
big gem. If you happen to meet anyone from Sonic Paradox there, they can really like that's something where you can truly say you've met everyone because as I said again, we don't show up at Summer Sonic often. And in fact, cons as a whole, we don't actually, you know, it's not often. In fact, we've only gone to maybe 2 or 3 conventions in the history of the site, and I think only twice were any cons, Sonic related. And then I said, I think the biggest presence we had was at Summer Sonic 2009, where there was like 5 of us that attended it.
How
Although
many are there of you total?
there are loads of us at SP. We have a huge, huge staff. I think we have like 15, 16 mods, including that includes 2 admins. And then there's a bunch of people who we consider to be, not noobs, so to speak, but good enough where they can get a little bit more rights to navigation around the forums and uh, a lot of people are really famous. Like some people in SP are really, really famous because of what they did in the Sonic shorts. It's, and especially in the early ones, like especially in the earlier volumes, people tend to be. If the earlier your volume was, that your animation was in, the better, more famous you probably are. Because the early volumes are the ones people seem to remember the most, although the most recent ones people do remember as well. Volume 7 probably not as much as the others since Volume 7 was kind of half-assed, so to speak, where it was, you know, it was just one person that was animating everything, animating all the shorts, but that's supposed to be fixed. That's going to be addressed in Volume 8, since now Volume 8 is going to be where all our effort's going to be put into again. And it just, the staff's huge, and we're constantly online. We're not, snooping around in other places, although we do have lives, and some of us do have jobs, and even fewer of us actually do, hang out with, girlfriends, and we even have some females, that we know very well, and we have busy, busy lives, which is why it takes so long to get each volume out, but once we do, it seems that people really, they go crazy over it. No question about it.
No, I can vouch for busy totally. On top of the work I do for TSSZ, my other regular day job and all my academia, it's not easy to maintain all that stuff going on at once. But um, you get it done. If you really want to get it done, you'll find a way to get it done. And I think that speaks for most of the Sonic sites out there.
Yep, I mean, it just depends on, how many of the staff is actually busy, and among other things, how much staff there even is. And the more staff that you have, the more active it'll be, but the more people that are actually busy with lives away from the keyboard, the less active they'll be for that. So it's kind of, you know, it's kind of good and bad there. There's really no definitive way to get a lot of activity because it's just, yeah. But and
It happens.
yeah, it happens. You can't do anything about it. It's life. Things can change in one day. In fact, things can change in 10 minutes. I mean, you never know what's going to happen.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people who've had things happen to them in such a short period of time know what they know, get the point.
Mm-hmm. Changes on a whim.
Yeah, it's
It happens.
it,
So,
yeah, we still kind of have a show to do, don't we?
yeah.
Don't worry, guys. We'll get
There's other
done.
things at hand.
Yeah,
Just, life in the universe. Temporarily, no big deal.
yeah. I mean, it's we're having fun.
Oh, I think so.
Cause yeah, we are. I mean, it just it would. I can only imagine what would have happened if Tristan or Ryan had been here too.
I'll pop in. Would have been interesting.
Yeah, it would have. But I am making another tweet because there's never enough tweets.
Oh, Well,
I think it's safe to say that at this
there
point,
could be. I mean, I'm not a major, supporter of Twitter. I sometimes, hold the position that you shouldn't really be limited to 140 characters to, spew your thoughts to the world if you're going to do that. But, it has its positives. But, I think there's some people that really, get into the tweeting bit a little heavy.
yeah, there are some that do that. I mean, it just depends on how busy you get on Twitter, but usually you can get pretty. The thing about Twitter is there are a lot of people that go on that site, so you
Oh,
can
yeah.
potentially get popular in a hurry.
You reach a lot of people, definitely.
And I remember this time last year, I didn't even have a Twitter. Exactly 1 year ago, I did not have a Twitter. And it wasn't until around, Sonic's 20th anniversary in June that I did actually get a Twitter. And I remember at that time, like even up to October, I had very, very few viewers and very, very few um, followers. And now it's like whenever I make a tweet, I
You
know
get
there's now over
responses.
260 people. What?
People are seeing it.
Yeah,
They know what I'm saying.
and it does feel good. I mean,
I'd imagine. I
but
mean, it's let's take a look here. Hold on. Pulling up some pages. TSSZ has 705 followers, which is, that's actually, it's weird that we bring up numbers like this because when I, do tweets and I, run the social media stuff for the site, I don't really think about it in those terms where I'm thinking, this is reaching 705 people and, X amount of them are going to respond and Y amount of them are going to say this and Z amount of them are going to do that. It's a different kind of image and aspect of the site that I think gets emphasized differently by different people. And it's at least in one sense, it's always interesting to see how that works.
it really does. It helps, and that Twitter's popular as it is, because as I said, you can get followers fast, especially if a lot of them are Sonic fans. And Twitter's also a great place to find out what's going on with Summer Sonic, especially if were it not for the Sonic show, and the Scoop Ponies' video feed of the event, we probably wouldn't have a very good idea as to what's going on at the convention, except with people who are actually there relaying information online. And that's the critical thing. Although Summer Sonic is very, very popular and it's as huge as it is, they don't actually get that much video coverage,
Yeah.
which is kind of ironic, considering, as I said, how popular the convention is. But that just goes to show, how,
It's a little unpredictable, yeah.
yeah. And then people are going to see Skype for a moment here because I'm looking at some messages.
Whoa. I see my name.
Barely. They'll probably see Lou there, but
Yeah. It was brief. That's fine.
yeah. But yeah, I guess I should clarify for those who don't know what Lou's is talking about with tweets and everything. Yes, he and Tristan both handle the TSSC News official Twitter on Twitter.
The TSSZ News official Twitter on Tumblr and Pinterest.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was actually, it took me a little while to get integrated into that whole system as I kind of absorbed more of the social media stuff, but it's interesting because I kind of started interacting with Twitter and using that system in ways that I didn't before because I actually didn't have Twitter prior to taking over that account. So integrating myself into that whole system was interesting. And as we start to progress into other forms of the social media, which are, in the works, and they'll be, rolled out as they're ready, it's always fun to kind of see how far you can extend your reach. What are you doing in the window there?
I'm just looking. I'm looking for YouTube, just to keep an eye out, because ever since we started doing that conversation on YouTube, I'm keeping an eye out on messages.
Okay.
I mean, now that we have each other on Skype, it won't be as necessary to make YouTube messages, but just in case.
That was back and forth.
Yeah, because we didn't have each other's Skype at the time.
Yeah.
But now it will be a lot easier. But nevertheless, I think we should. Let's just say this. I'll say this much. We've only gotten through one topic. Unfortunately, we gotten through one topic, and we're an hour in. And I finally got some actual feedback from other TSSZ staff members, but it was interesting. It's actually Ryan.
Really? Where did you get this?
Twitter.
Oh, well, let's take a look. Hold on.
He actually says, unfortunately, I just got in from doing a little bit of spring cleaning, yard work, and need to hop in the shower.
Well, we should probably let him do that.
Yes, and then I see our little leader of our site, Wax, pops in saying, says twatter.
Twatter.
Yes. That's gonna be, yeah, I get the feeling those who hate the site just found a new nickname for the site.
I guess. Yeah, I don't have, a whole lot more time here, so might as well keep it moving.
Yeah, I know we were kind of low on time, but we're having fun, so makes up for it, I guess.
It's always good. And we have Waxter and salads. It's always a good time. I have to go figure out the recipe for a Waxter salad now. Iceberg lettuce, sun-dried tomatoes, Thousand Island dressing, and shavings of a car tire.
I'm going to try to make sense of that, so.
It's appetizing, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, what else you got?
Well, I just sent Ryan a message that it's fine, and I asked him if it was possible he'd be able to show soon. And if he can, that's fine. At least I got some kind of we got some kind of response finally.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't from Tristan himself, but we got it from someone.
Yeah.
I guess well, if he does want to show up in a show later on in the future, by all means, contact me. Message stuff on Twitter, obviously. So, But what were we doing now? Oh yeah, we were doing the show.
There's more at hand.
Yeah. Interesting. The next thing is probably something that was really being talked about on TSSC a lot, and that was the whole affair with Sonic 2 HD. I'm just gonna. Yeah, that was something.
Sonic 2 HD leak. Yes. So, what about it?
Well, there was the whole thing that happened within the last few weeks. Basically,
it's a pretty complicated story, as I recall. We covered it pretty extensively, and it's not easy to follow. It developed a lot during that day, and in that short, little 12-hour window, a lot happened.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate because that, as most people know, that project has been disbanded, and it's. It was disappointing news when it was first announced because Lost the lead programmer kind of held that project a little bit hostage, as I recall. And, having the whole thing discontinued because of an unfortunate way of programming keyboard input is sad because, it was one of the, if not the biggest and most hyped fan game out in that community, and to see it kind of get struck with this kind of controversy and then just completely shut down is unfortunate. Sonic Fan Remix had its heyday, and now Sonic 2 HD is come and gone, and whatever will take its place, has some pretty big shoes to fill.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very interesting affair that took place when we went from talking about there being a keylogger in the game to there being no game.
Yeah, at
So,
all. I think they kind of jumped the gun a little bit with announcing everything, and before the entire story was in order, information was flying left and right. But at any rate, it is unfortunate because I, along with many others, was looking forward to that project, and to see it killed over something that's as unfortunate as the sloppy programming is tough.
yeah, definitely. It kind of hurt the game, definitely, and I'm still tweeting, as people can probably obviously tell from the fact that I keep bringing Windows up. Um, Ryan did tweet me again saying he will not be able to show up later in the show, so there's no question about it. He's not going to be able to be in the show, so. And with Tristan probably not going to be able to show either, I think it's safe to say that it will be just you and I here. So,
That is fine. I think
yep,
we're doing okay.
yep, definitely. I think we're doing good myself. We're having fun. You know what? The more I say that, the more we're just going to keep freaking, getting off topic. So, to hell with what I'm saying. Let's move on. Um, yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah, it's just Sonic 4 Episode 2 temporarily leaked on Steam.
okay.
This will be fun to talk about.
The Sonic 4 leak. It was, a lot of people I think initially jumped to conclusions, saying that, Sega screwed up again. Blah. With a partner leak or partner let. I'm going to use English language. Partner net leak that plagued Ep 1, now, having a illegitimate pre-release of Ep 2 going into the hands of millions of Steam users, or at least potentially, is definitely, I don't think, what Sega wanted to do. But I think the net result of it may actually be positive because after, everything's died down, people have farmed that file for all it's worth. And not to give any spoilers for those of you that haven't checked anything out, it looks impressive. I think this is what Sonic 4 should have encompassed from the start, instead of just what Episode 1 offered. Episode 2 really feels like it has itself in order, and that's exciting to see. So in a sense, I'm glad that everything leaked because it's a much more positive image of it overall.
Yeah, I think when it comes to leaks, they're expected now, to be honest, but it depends in exactly, who it was that caused the leak. Like, for example, Sonic Generations last year, where it got leaked literally a week before the game was supposed to come out. That was Best Buy's fault.
Yeah, the blame game ranges greatly, in the instance of this community. Sonic 4 Ep 1, had the PartnerNet issue, and now there's a different issue with Steam. Generations had a different issue, and who knows how Unleashed's initial teaser got leaked out. But
Which was coincidentally one of the first things TSSZ News talked about when they came back from that reboot.
yeah, I think so. It's Unleashed is it's a separate beast, I think. But leaks, at any rate, leaks are unfortunate, obviously, and whatever positives may come of it, either dramatically altering the game in the case of Ep 1 or giving us a more positive outlook in the case of Ep 2. There's positives and negatives that always get weighed, and it's tough to gauge whether or not totally had a thought there. Oh well.
Yeah, it's honestly becoming kind of a thing now where it seems like it's blame Sega when it comes to things like this. And I, I think what people need to do, which is probably asking too much, but what I think people do need to do is just think for a second and think, wait, did it say that Sega leaked the game on Steam, or did it say that the
Right.
game was just simply leaked on Steam? Like, it was leaked on Steam. Was it leaked on in a store? Was it leaked on, a site Sega owns? No, it was leaked on at a place where Sega really does not own at all.
At all.
Sega,
Now, it's I don't know. It's tough to gauge in that sense because I think the other thing to consider is a lot of Sonic fans can get very angry very quickly. And the first person they're probably going to pin blame on in their fits of rage is Sega themselves and the most visible members of Sega. Unfortunately, in cases like this, are people like Ken Ballo and Aaron Weber, the community guys, who have actually very, limited ability to control the final product in terms of, output and how it's actually made. And I feel like they come under fire, a lot for various reasons that, are outside of their control. So if people are going to stop and take a look at, who they're pinning blame on and where leaks are actually coming from, it's probably a more extensive process than they might think.
Yeah, there's no question in my mind that were it not for the Sega leaks, I think people would have been kind of surprised that Sega would have been able to keep a secret, because to be honest, Sega is not exactly the best when it comes to keeping secrets, but
Now, they've been having
sometimes it's not even their fault. And I do feel bad for Sega, because when they get leaks like this, it happens,
recently, yeah, a lot of the time.
it screws up everything they were trying to do.
Yeah, it's I remember when Ken threw down his thoughts on the Ep2 leak. One of his opening statements was, "It wouldn't be an episode of Sonic 4 without something leaking," which struck me as an interesting way to put it, because obviously that's not in his power, but he's realizing that the company's had pretty bad luck with keeping that game under wraps for a long time, and to have some kind of sense of humor or tongue-in-cheek attitude about it is comforting, where they're not flipping tables and getting mad at the community too.
I do like that about Sega, that they're able to crack a joke and they have no problem being funny when they want to. Like they'll
Skull Wolf is asking what we're watching, and I'm not sure what this is. This is, in fact, the SonicNews Show, but
it is.
if on the screen right now actually is the infinite depths of the abyss, and you should come to know it very well. Thank you.
Yeah, what Dr. MacFox said. It's mainly an auto-only program, but it does have visuals when it needs to. But
Your Skype window.
yeah, because everyone loves to see my Skype window. Um, because yeah, but it happens. You love Skype, don't we all? Even Skype when Skype has a capital K in it. But
Yeah, Billy the Whale. He loves it.
Skype. Um, yeah, it's really saying a lot when I've been doing the show for more than a year and people still don't know what the hell it is.
This is it's the infinite abyss on the SonicNews Show. Come on.
Yeah. Well, we all know it's the most famous Sonic podcast in the world.
It really is the infinite abyss, isn't it? Stuff.
Yeah.
Now we're getting creative misspellings. Okay.
Yeah. What do we start?
We have Skype. We have
Skypey.
eyes of eyes. Yeah. Let's see what else.
Skypey.
What else can we get out here? This is exactly what we need in comment section. There we go. Spippy.
Spiffy. Yeah. Scope.
Good. Yes, you have. Yes, you have, Billy.
Oh man.
When people go back and listen to this outside of seeing the live stream comments, they're going to be thinking, "What the hell is just Billy?" Billy the Whale is talking about numbers now. Okay, that's Skyperus.
Skyperus.
What is that? No, this is good. This is good. I'm embracing this. Skull Wolf went from black to green to blue. I'm observant. I can see what's going on over here.
And now the next 10 minutes is going to be us making fun of the word Skype, so...
Over and over, and this is quality content.
Yes, we're all professionals here.
Skypey the Whale.
Right. Skypey the Whale.
It's a bit of a stretch. Not sure I'm going to let that pass. Anyway, back to Sonic 4. I'm personally excited for Episode 2. More so than I think I was for Ep 1 around this time. And skin. All right. In the mood for some Skippy. Well, so, like Skippy peanut butter, maybe. Now I'm gonna have to make a sandwich. Anyway, Sonic 4 is looking great right now, I think, as a whole.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm more excited for Ep 2 at this point than I was for Ep 1. I think they're paying a lot more attention to the little stuff. When you look at gameplay videos of some of the leaked stuff, which you do at your own discretion, I guess. It's not for everybody, and part of me wishes I didn't see it, but I now have it charted out from start to finish what it looks like, and it's solid. But in the old games, if you remember, in the Genesis trilogy, when Sonic would jump standing still, he would spin kind of slowly in the air. And as you got up to speed and jumped, his spin would, become much faster. And Episode Metal does look great, actually. Rabbit Noodles is right on that. In Ep 2, they brought back that whole concept of he spins faster and has more energetic movements as his speed increases, whereas Ep 1 just had one constant kind of very slow loop in the air, and, the looping's off-center, and the graphics are, interesting as is. But while I'm thinking about Episode Metal here, too, part of me wishes that they had done a little more with that concept, in that basically all it is slightly remade levels from Ep 1. Mad Gear, Lost Labyrinth, different objects in different places, but the level geometry and the overall design is very similar to what it was. And I was hoping to see something more along the lines of being more creative with that concept. What happened, to those 4 zones in the meantime, maybe change their aesthetics a little bit, make them look a little different, a little more visually distinct from what they were attempting to do with Ep 1. And, that's not happening, which is okay, because it looks solid as it is, but so it's a thought.
Yeah, I don't know how many people are actually going to be able to get the game when it actually launches, but the way it's looking, I believe I'll probably be one of the first to own the game. Considering I already have 1,200 Microsoft points in store, along with another 1,600 for Minecraft, but it's people are still making fun of the word Skype.
What if we have some breaking news here, Billy the Whale? What if Blue Abyss on the podcast screen is a microscopic view of Sonic's skin, whoa face? Now, what you have to consider there, Billy, is skin doesn't really move like that at all. So if Sonic's microscopic skin is actually, just a bunch of abstract graphics moving around over and over and over again, and that's what creates him, I'm sorry. That's very strange.
Skype Pumi.
I can't even pronounce that.
Skype Pumi. Skype Pumi.
Sick poom. No. Not going there. Anyway.
What?
Yeah.
This show went down the Skype Pumi in a hurry.
This is engaging stuff. It's at least, something to bounce off of.
Yeah.
Sonic the Skype.
Yep. Sonic the Skype, do not steal.
This is gotta call fast.
Yep.
Sonic the Skype.
Skypetopia.
I'd buy it. It's just a Sonic skin that goes over your normal Skype window.
Yeah.
Or it's your little logo there, Sonic with bulgy serial killer eyes and a unibrow.
And his pupils are the Skype logo.
Can't really see that far.
How we won't know that until we see it.
At any rate.
Yeah, Sonic's future, talked about at PAX East, because I was kind of slow news day at that point, but
yeah, there's we actually have an article up about that I will pull up as I ramble on here. It's I really hope it's not, what we are looking at.
The rumors.
The rumor, the big one that actually had a lot of comments here. Hold on a second. Sorry. if they are actually planning to go the route of what Skylanders did with the collectible figurines that you have to get into the game to unlock content and tie integral parts of the gaming experience into merchandise, that's not something I can support, nor will I support. I think it's a little more based in extortion. If that, I know it's a heavy word, but forcing gamers to buy merchandise to have the full game that they should have anyway is I don't know. It rubs me the wrong way.
I'll say this much: if it turns out that the rumors are true, and at the moment I'm not really convinced because there really isn't any hardcore
Yeah,
information.
it's just rumor at this point.
Yeah, it's just speculation, mostly based. But if it turns out that the game, they do end up doing that stuff, um, what it seems to be the case is I just find it ironic how they're gradually upping, the scope of trying to lessen the amount of money they use in making the game, but they're actually going to add on to the money by making, merchandise specifically for the game.
Which is unfortunate. And the other thing too is they want to completely, or at least the rumor says they want to completely revamp the style of the game and bring it out of the current, Unleashed Colors generation style into yet another reboot of the concept of gameplay. And let me just, if I can, I'm just going to run the gamut here. Let's just Skype it. It's not, no.
There's a lot of details that would have to be talked about. They pretty much are saying about redoing just about everything.
Yeah, and I mean, if we think about it, how many times has Sonic been reinvented at this point? We had the transition from classic to adventure, which is one. We had the quote-unquote transition from Heroes to 06 in the main line, where they tried to bring the franchise back to its roots and failed miserably. And now we had the 06 to Unleashed transition, so that's, 3 attempts to reinvent the wheel here? And I think, actually out of all of them, the most successful was probably the 06 to Unleashed transition, because while the adventure games are fun and they're, they have their own appeal, I feel like the Unleashed style more fully captures, the spirit of the old games. I think adventure took it in a different direction that works, but I find myself personally gravitating toward the Unleashed style a little more. Dat Iblis Trigger.
Yes. And Sky Vector Ping approves.
I guess so.
They're still going on about Skype.
Well, you know what? That's here we missed that a little bit. Let's catch back up. First of all, Vector calls asking if you found the computer room. No, we're gonna have to wait for Heroes 2 to actually find the computer room. And Recorder Dude has appeared because why not? Thank you. Glad you're here.
Yeah, you're not missing much other than me and Lewis talking about random things, and also everyone just making fun of the word Skype for the last 10 minutes.
Much. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. I'm Skyping it. Sonic
Yeah.
Actually, I like that, at least recently, Sonic teams made some kind of conscious effort to expand Sonic's scope in terms of coming up with original ideas for, plot and story, which, shouldn't really be the mainstay of the franchise anyway, but keeping things fresh instead of just churning out, Sonic Heroes 2 or Adventure 3 or, Shadow the Hedgehog 2, God forbid. It's a good direction, I think, for them to go in, giving him different environments and, different stuff to do. So I hope, even if they do reboot it and, merchandising aside, if they continue down that kind of track of fresh stuff, then they're going to be in a decent place.
I have to agree with Thomas Recorder Dude there. If you've played one 2D Mario game, you've played most 2D Mario games. If you've played one 3D Mario game, you've played most 3D Mario games. At least Sonic changes it up. Definitely.
That's very true. That actually is.
Like, you really cannot say you've truly played every Mario game unless you actually have played every Mario game. Where, and with Sonic, if you feel more accomplished for getting every single game. Like,
Here's, I think, the best way I think I can illustrate that is New Super Mario Brothers on the DS. Fun game, built very well. I play it, well, I haven't played it in a while, but I really did play it when it first came out. And when they made New Super Mario Brothers Wii, I was kind of excited, but then when I realized that it was essentially just, the exact same style as the original New Super Mario Brothers, I kind of got turned off because it was, the exact same environments, most of the same gameplay mechanics. It felt devoid of that kind of spark that at least the newer kind of breed of Sonic games have been delivering. And despite, the gameplay, the core gameplay being pretty much the same since Unleashed, they've kept the formula varied with the locations and variations on different things that at least the New Super Mario Bros. To Mario Wii transition didn't do.
yeah, it was pretty crazy how Sonic's, change the concept would just change over and over again. And I recently heard that they're even bringing out another new Super Mario Brothers game. Um, Apparently they announced New Super Mario Brothers 2 on the 3DS. Why are they calling it 2 is beyond me, but
What are they
nevertheless,
doing? One more time on that?
I said they actually announced, Nintendo announced just recently, as a matter of fact, that there's supposed to be a new Super Mario Bros. 2 coming out for the 3DS. Really? 2.
That's right. Yeah, I'm actually looking that up. I didn't hear about that. And that's you're talking recent. They announced this yesterday. So let's actually just take a look at this. Nintendo announced earlier this year, blah blah blah. Nintendo announced New Super Mario Brothers 2, and it's the return of the Super Leaf for Raccoon Mario action. Okay, timeout. The big thing with Super Mario 3D Land was the reintroduction of the tail, at least. So if we're essentially bringing that same concept back again, but in 2D this time,
Yeah.
I'll have to look at this a little more.
Nintendo really is becoming too, like, they're not really pulling any surprises out anymore.
Recently they've been treading familiar ground, but the one thing I can't fault them on is Mario Galaxy and Mario Galaxy 2, because those were just so.
Those are exceptions.
They were fantastic
Yeah.
games. And Galaxy 2, despite, treading immediately in the footsteps of Galaxy 1, added enough to keep it fresh, and that was just, it was an outstanding game. So what I hope Mario 2 will do on the 3DS is provide some of that, twist on the formula to New Super Mario Brothers, because I think that's a series, or a series of games that desperately needs it.
As a whole, it's just becoming really increasingly obvious that Nintendo is just going to do the same thing repeatedly. And case in point, was it really any surprise that they were going to announce a new Mario game for the Wii U as well? I mean,
No,
really?
right. Although I have to stop for a second, because up a little bit in the comments here we have a reference to virus equals very yes, and that too, commenters, is one of my absolute favorite strong bad emails of all time. Virus is just fantastic. Are you familiar with these?
I don't believe I am.
Homestar Runner, that whole kind of web series.
Not sure. Sounds familiar. I heard of Homestar Runner, but not. I don't think Virus.
The strong bad emails and virus was just fantastic. But anyway, what do we have going on here? I'm going to detour a little bit. Ever since Walmart stocked those igloo coolers, Eskimos have been living there since now. And then Billy the Whale, yeah, they don't even pay rent up there.
I don't even
So
know.
I
Um,
guess Billy the Whale is discovering Walmart in the Arctic and something about coolers Sonic does not want. Antivirus says the computer is toast. And yeah, Mac Fox brings up an interesting point. The brothers chaps, the creators of Homestar Runner, actually went off and got married and had babies and got lives. So the website hasn't been updated in about 2 years, and that's unfortunate because it was, a shining spot in the internet. But anyway, on the bright side, what? You can barely fit a small cut of width. This has gone on way too far. Yeah, Mario 2 needs some innovation, and I hope they deliver. Unleashed in a good spot. Sonic 4 Up 2 looks interesting. My time is running a little short here, so
Yeah, we're gonna start speeding up things a bit, guys. It does help that we're actually at the fifth topic out of 10, so it's hard to believe, but we're actually halfway done.
and we should really kind of pick this up. I am down to the minutes here, so
Yeah, we are gonna pick up the pace here, guys. So, luckily, I don't know what's gonna happen next week, but I'd imagine we might have a little bit more leniency. But for the time being, we might want to move on.
yeah.
Apparently, Sega hinted that its future Sonic 4 episodes could be made if they sell well.
Right. Now, I think most of us were under the impression that Sonic 4 was going to have at least 3 episodes. After they formally announced that there was only going to be 2 and, further entries would depend on fan input, that makes me wonder, did they actually have 3 episodes planned to start and then negative reaction to 1 have it, cut back? Or was it just always 2?
I don't know. Like, maybe they decided after seeing so much feedback and criticism over the game that they decided, you know what? Why do we even bother? It's just, why are we even bothering trying to mess with this? We wanted 3 episodes, but if all we're getting is just constant criticism, like, it's like, what are we supposed to do here?
I don't feel like a lot of people feel like Sonic Team kind of coasted with F1, and I kind of have a mixed reaction about that. For one, did it live up to its full potential? I don't think so. Could there have been more with this concept? Absolutely. At the same time, they're a legitimate development house, and I know Dimps was mostly in charge of F1, so let's get that out in the open. But everything aside from Sonic 06, I feel had a legitimate amount of effort put into it. So, and there's something to be said for 06 being as rushed as it was too, and I'm sure they probably did the best they could under the time constraints they had. That's just a separate idea. I think what's important to remember is internally maybe they had the wrong idea for what Sonic 4 was going to be, and I say wrong idea because the fans clearly had a different idea. And Sonic 4, I think, implies that there's going to be a continuation from the original trilogy, adding new features and new scenarios and new environments, while at the same time maintaining the roots. And I think what Ep1 did for the most part was just retread. So it's seeing Ep2 kind of flesh itself out more is comforting, and if Ep1 was like that, I don't think we would have hit this roadblock. But as it stands, at least there's one good episode out of all of this effort, I guess.
It depends a lot on, the people's stance on the game, how much they can tolerate, in the game. If people can tolerate just enough, they're gonna have no problem with the game. But if there's a few more issues that people find in it, they're gonna hate it a bit more. But for the most part, it sounds to me like episode 1 was generally mixed. But
yeah,
episode 2,
it fared pretty well critically. On Metacritic, I think it's largely in the green and upper, higher yellows in the 70s. Fan reaction was much colder, though, and I think that's something that's important to remember, because you're not just making games for the critics, you're making games for the people that buy them.
Definitely, and it really is saying a lot that the reaction to episode 2 has been quite a lot more positive than episode 1, I want to
Oh,
say.
definitely, definitely.
And I actually have noticed that it seems to me like the fans are slowly becoming a little bit more tolerable. Like, I've noticed that with Generations and with Sonic 4 Episode 2 that they really haven't been criticizing the games quite as much as past games.
Right.
Like, they've only...
Because I think, there's more effort been, put into them, and I think Sonic Team and Sega are actually making legitimate efforts to pay attention to what fans are looking for and incorporate that into what they already have for ideas. But I don't mean to kind of detour or bring things to a screeching halt, but I only have about 5-10 more minutes here. So if there's anything super pressing that you think I would need any input on, should probably scoot that up.
Yeah, we're really gonna speed up now. Like, there's no question about it. But there's only 4 more topics to talk about anyway. And like you probably are aware, the last topic is going to be mostly me talking, so, you know.
Right. So hopefully we can get through the next 3 in the next 10 minutes or so, because after that I'll have to take my leave. So
Yeah. Well, apparently some Sega characters in Project X Zone have been confirmed for the first time in ages. There's actually some Sega news rather than
yeah,
purely
as
Sonic.
opposed to yeah. I think a lot of people were surprised that there weren't characters from the mainstay Sonic franchise in that game. But at the same time, I think Sega should be able to coexist at some point with Sonic and not rely purely on him for existence. So to give other characters their time in the sun is nice, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with that concept.
Definitely. And also apparently when we were mentioning Summer Sonic for like good while, uh, not only was the official Summer Sonic Twitter account created, but apparently Tracy Yardley of the Archie Sonic comics has been attending the is going to be attending the Geek Out convention, and they actually said they would love to attend Summer Sonic again. So apparently, Summer Sonic may in the future have Tracy Yardley returning if the staff want them to. But
Which is great. I think the more tension and the more community power that has, the better. So that's all the better for it, I guess.
yeah, definitely. And also, apparently, let me see, where am I at? What is live? Where is no? Um, now I'm losing where I was at. All this damn Skype conversations going on in that live stream chat have thrown me off. I think I'm caught up though. Yep. Pretty much the final topic I really need you for is that, well, Mike Pollock is apparently teasing some kind of major announcement in the future.
Yes, he is. Uh, and there's not a whole lot of concrete information on that, at all. But there's a couple things that are heavily implied by what we know already. And before I get into that, what do we have here? Billy the Whale smashes his tail on the keyboard. He's actually petitioned Sega to have Billy the Whale in Ep 2. And that's interesting. They denied him. Wow. Who would have guessed? Anyway, the thought is, the couple of thoughts is that there's an upcoming Disney movie called Wreck-It Ralph that is totally based in, kind of the gaming environment, in the arcade. And all sorts of stuff happening there with, video characters being more fleshed out and taking on lives of their own. And in it, there's what they're calling some kind of like video game villain support group, and Dr. Eggman is one of the characters there. So potentially his announcement could be that he was asked to voice Eggman in that film. Alternately, maybe there's something new on the horizon for the franchise in terms of gaming that Pollock knows about and is teasing on Sega's behalf. There's not a whole lot of concrete information. We can't say for sure, but I think any of those speculative bits have legitimacy at this point.
Yeah, there's The whatever announcement Mike does have, I imagine it will be a good one because as far as I know, he has not had any. There really has not been anything bad coming from Mike Pollock, and it's I
Yeah,
think
he's a pretty straightforward guy.
he is.
And kind of my last little comment here before I take my leave. Billy the Whale is commenting that he didn't like Sonic in that Progressive commercial, and that it filled his whale heart with sad emoticons. I
What?
I'll take my last little minute here to poke my own thoughts out with that. A lot of people will see that as kind of shameless marketing, and actually not so much seeing Sonic as on the rise, but as, more on the fall because he's in a car insurance commercial. However, when was the last time, in this franchise's rich history since, its classic days, that Sonic has really been front and center in something like that reaches out into the more mainstream television audience?
Yeah. It's not often, definitely. And I don't think it's happened since what the mid 2000s or something like that when Shadow had that little endorsement from M-Flow. But
Yeah.
other than
So
that,
I thought at least, on some level it was refreshing to see that Sonic has restored himself and Sega's been able to restore the brand to the point where he can appear in whatever kind of commercial it is, something bigger like that, and be recognized and to an extent embraced. So it's refreshing on some level to see that. And again, I can understand that point, but that it's car insurance, but at the same time, it could also be not car insurance. He could be not on TV at all.
yeah, it just it's just another one of those things that depends upon exactly how well you see it, like what
There's a lot
angle
of
of
different
view.
viewpoints on it, and they all have
Yeah,
legitimacy to them. So,
yeah, it just depends on the viewpoint you have and whether exactly it's that belief you have or not. But
yeah.
other than that,
You mad? But no, actually, Doctor, I'm not mad.
um,
Thanks for asking. The little "you mad bro" graphic just popped up.
yeah, I'd say neither of us are actually mad at each other. Any of
Oh,
you
I'm
guys, we're
pretty
having, like I said, we've been having the time of our life in this in this
pretty
stream.
chill right now.
Yeah, we're actually on the last topic now, so
So I think that would be an appropriate time for me to kind of bow out, take my leave.
well, while you guys in the stream can stick around for the last, probably 5 minutes or so of this of the show, we're gonna let our special guest take his leave. And it was great having you here.
Thanks for having me on. This was a lot of fun.
It was, and hopefully next time, you know, if you ever want to be on the show again, feel free to hit me up, and hopefully this next time we do get together again for a show like this, that we actually have some assistance this next time.
Yeah,
But
you never know. If we pop up next time, maybe the rest of the crew, some of them will come on board. There's a lot of time for that. So we'll see.
yeah, yeah, we'll see. I did hit up Ryan, tell him if he and Tristan and me want to do a show in the future. If turns out you don't you don't have the ability to, and said, well, if they want to, feel free to hit me up. But
Cool.
yep, if you guys wish to check out Lewis, well, on TSSC News, you don't have to look far either. You just have to look for the TSSC official Twitter account, which he runs alongside with Tristan. Now I can't say his name because I'm tired. Um, and otherwise, you can check out his articles on TSSC because, as I stated before, he is one of the writers at TSSC. And in case you guys needed to see what TSSC News looks like, there it is. That's the site right here. Because I headed up this entire background.
www.tssnews.com. One-stop shopping for Sonic and Sega resources and information. I'm usually in charge, actually I'm fully in charge of the TSSZ Fan Fridays segment that runs usually Friday mornings. I'll usually take the reins on the weekend, post up news and information largely about Sega at large. We have some other fun stuff coming up in the next couple of months in terms of reaching out over more forms of social media and ways to get our information out to everybody. and it's looking to be an interesting time. So, we're always looking forward to more people discovering the site. And my last little bit here, responding to Rabbit Noodles, who asks TSSZ, what does it stand for? Officially nothing. It's just TSSZ.
Yeah.
In terms of where that came from, or how it came to be, that's probably a question that's should be directed at Tristan.
Yeah. But in the meantime, I would love to be, I've been looking up that Fan Fridays segment you've been doing on the site lately, and if you needed someone to interview for that, I'm available. So
That's great, and we'll keep that in mind. And for anyone listening, if you know of any cool fan projects that we haven't featured yet, ranging from hacks in the video games to
podcasts.
animations to artwork to podcasts that people put together to anything of the sort, give us an email at fansonfriday@tsssznews.com. That actually fields directly toward me, so I will, take a look at it, get back to you, and see if we can't put it in a feature later down the road. We have a lot stacked up right now. I actually have a couple weeks planned already, but we always need more stuff. So
Yeah,
if you have anything, swing it our way.
Yep, I'd imagine I'd qualify. I mean, if you consider what I do on everything I do on SP, and I also do.
A lot of what Sonic Paradox does actually would qualify. So somewhere down the road, you never know.
I mean, you never know. I mean, I am directly in contact with the Sonic Paradox guys, but if it depends on you guys exactly who you want to interview, whether it just be Sonic Paradox as a whole or just me, because I do know a lot about SP on my own, but I know it would probably be an even bigger interview if it was SP as a whole. But it's considering we did just have an interview with Titan Screed recently, I'd imagine that it won't exactly be. Don't expect another interview, guys, to be immediate, but I imagine that won't be the last interview you're going to see anytime soon.
Right.
And like I said, you ever wanted, if you ever need anyone to interview for that Fan Fridays segment, I'm available.
I will absolutely keep it in mind, and once we get rid of all the backlog I have now, I'll be looking for fresh stuff. So I'll keep it in mind.
Yep.
And with that, I think I'll be taking off. It was good talking to you, and hopefully we can do something like this again soon.
Yep. I hope so too.
All right. Take care, everybody.
All right. See you, Lewis. And with that in mind, with him now exiting the call, I feel alone now. I think this is the most I felt alone in a Sonic News Show in God knows how long. But it's just a nick of time. I did figure that he eventually would leave, before the show ended. But I'm glad he was able to stay around with us. And as I said, he said, you know where to look for him. And this will be eventually up on YouTube, so if you need a refresher on that, you'll know where to go. And there he goes offline. So, with that in mind, we got one more topic to discuss, though. I'm just making one more tweet before I get to that topic, though. But we have one more thing to talk about. But I hope the best, If he really does, need me for anything, I'll be there, for stuff on the site, Fan Fridays and everything. We'll see. It's up to him. But nevertheless, it's TSSCnews.com, if I got the exact link right. Yeah, TSSCnews.com is the name of the site Luce is on. And you can also catch, other people like Tristan Oliver, of course, and Ryan Bloom, and their correspondents in various countries like Japan and the UK. And you can catch the entire staff over at TSSCnews.com. And hopefully, sometime in the future, Ryan and Tristan will be able to get into a call with, be able to make a guest appearance. And if the rest of the TSSC crew does join, I'm all for it. They know where to find me, I hope. I completely forgot to mention there was one thing I forgot to mention to him, but meh, it's not urgent. Nevertheless, we do have some more things to talk about, but just one more thing. And after this, we can go ahead and close off the show for now. And I have some good SonicNews Show news to end the show with anyway, so this will be fitting. Among them, Sonic Paradox has done a lot in the last 2 weeks. Sonic Paradox is now a YouTube partner. The site has had a big interview, as I mentioned, with Titan Screed the other day, and that is now up on YouTube as well. You can easily find it, but many people have actually covered the news. Like, covered the site. Like that interview, rather, but we've been everywhere, and even better, the birthday stream I had. As everyone probably knows by now, I am now 20 years old. This was my first SonicNews Show at the age of 20. So happy birthday to me, I guess. Late birthday to me. Yeah, it feels good to finally have a SonicNews Show at the age of 20, so it's the very first SonicNews Show ever in my 20s. Go figure. Yeah, the birthday stream took place this past Tuesday, and it was all right. I think it did great. It could have been a lot better though. Yeah, I liked it. It went well, and even better, it actually went for the time frame I wanted. That ham. It's pretty crazy how smoothly it went. I mean, I got a lot of messages too. I'd say I'm, getting places with, my age, but now I'm in my 20s among with many, many others. So fun, huh? Nevertheless, speaking of yours truly, he now has another title to add to his belt. He's not just news reporter now. He's not just host of the Sonic News Show, but yours truly is now apparently the public relations dude of SP now. And the way I think about it, I guess I can't blame them for pretty much promoting me to having PR dude as another thing to add. So yeah, I'd say considering all the big name guests we've been having, it's looking great. But yep, yours truly is now officially news reporter of SP, staff member of SP, host of the Sonic News Show at SP, and now SP's public relations guy. So, whoopee. But yeah, that is it. That's all there is to talk about. What else is there to talk about? Nothing. Other than just talk about information on the Sonic News Show itself. If anybody's been following me on Twitter lately, you'll notice that I've been actually tweeting officially that it's looking like it is all but a definite now that after E3 this year, which will be probably mid-June, late June, that the post-E3 period happens, that it's looking like I am going to be making a big time change to the show. As you guys have probably known by now, the Sonic News Show has been going at 8 p.m. for a good while now. I think since the beginning of the show, it's been going at 8 p.m. Eastern. Well, it seems to me like it's really... It seems to me like a time change is in order, because we've been dealing with a lot of British, people showing up in the making special guest appearances, and among other things, 8 p.m. is no longer needed. Like, it was more necessary when I was first starting out, but now it's high time that I can branch out to an earlier time. It's high time I can do that. And as I said, it will also give people in the UK a better chance of being able to be in the stream, because it won't interfere as much. And as I found out from JK Disco Ponies of the Sonic Show, he actually wants a show to, immediately happen after the Sonic, immediately after um the Sonic show's live streams ended. He actually said he wanted a show to end, start up at 11 o'clock his time, 6 p.m. my time, or 11 p.m. his time, 6 p.m. my time. And that would fit perfectly with what I was thinking of putting the Sonic News Show at a new time. And I'm really, really pumped about it because I think it is high time to make this move. But it's pretty much all but definite now that 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, that's 11 p.m. UK/GMT, it's looking like 6 p.m. Eastern Time will be the new time for the Sonic News Show in the future. It's pretty great. I can't complain. Like I said, I think time change is really needed at this point. It's almost necessary now because not only do I have you guys to look out for, it being very late, but I also have, to deal with it's yeah. Now I know that even the Sonic show wouldn't interfere with the showtime. That was one of the big things I had to deal with. Now, one other thing I'm having to deal with is possibly making the Sonic News Show a Sunday thing. I don't know yet. I don't know if the Sonic News Show will be on Sundays from here on out and just Sundays. But I will say this much. Would consider the Sonic News Show being on Saturdays and Sundays to be less of a likelihood now. Because it's not going to be easy to do a show like this 2 days in a row anymore. It's just not possible now. So I'm probably going to be making another change, and that's the time change, and then potentially, if it's necessary, there might just very well be only one day where I'll be doing a show, one day a week, once a week. And if that's the case, you guys will be, everyone will be the first, will be hearing it as soon as I make the announcement. As soon as I decided upon it, you guys will know. But for now, thanks for watching, everyone. Tune in next time on the Sonic News Show, where we may actually have a very, very interesting Sonic News Show. Possibly even more interesting than this one. This was a monumental one for TSSZ News, since they've actually had their first involvement in a podcast in years. But the next time, if it turns out that we can get everyone here, the next show will probably be guest starring the staff from Radio Sega. I think the staff to Radio Sega might be here next week. If all goes well. As far as I know, the first thing I gotta look at is to see if on the 29th, on April 29th, that we're actually able to do that and do a show. Like, there's actually people online. There's actually topics to talk about, and then eventually it's seeing if anyone's even able to attend the show. I don't know that yet. I don't know if that show's gonna happen yet. It highly depends on what there is to talk about. But since this is going to be Radio Sega and they talk about more than just Sonic, I'm probably gonna make it a little bit special where there's gonna be some extra, bits for Sega. In that case, it might make a show a little bit more possible, but the way it's looking, I think the show's a go for Sunday. Don't be certain about it, though. Keep an eye on my Twitter so you'll know, you'll get the details as soon as they come out, on how this show's going to go. But as far as I can tell, if all goes well, next week, if everything goes right, next Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 1 a.m. UK/GMT, will be the Radio Sega edition of the Sonic News Show. Note that this will be the first time anyone from Radio Sega will be on the show, and considering I've actually been friends with a few of the people at Radio Sega for a few months now, since November in fact, this could prove interesting for those who actually want to be in on the show, you know. But it is up to them if they want to be in it, and if they want to, if they even can. But I know beyond any shadow of a doubt that 2 people at the most are considering joining, and one has said they might be able to join in for a little chat. However, I should clarify that the Radio Sega staff is huge. They have quite a few DJs. I should clarify that their staff I consider to be all their DJs and, the main people that run the site, which is, Gavi and Forever Sonic. So I need to talk to Forever Sonic sometime within the next week, because as far as I know, he doesn't even have any idea there even is a show of sorts considered. And also see, hopefully, about having, the main man of Radio Sega, who hosts Radio Sega and Saturday Night Sega himself, actually attend. And if that's the case, then, you know what? This would be one hell of a show, because that's a lot of people right there. There's going to be a lot of people that be showing up. And we're going to be having the time of our life if that's the case. And as far as I know, I don't think that many people from Radio Sega would actually be in a Skype call before. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes. But nevertheless, this is all for next week. And judging from what I've been hearing, not only is Radio Redux returning next week, but apparently the Sonic Show Live is going to be returning next week. So let me run down what's going to happen next Sunday, because it's going to be a busy one next Sunday, as it turns out. We have Radio Redux with Kevin Eva on at, let me see, what is it? 2 p.m. Eastern Time. That is 7 p.m. UK/GMT. An hour after that starts and the show ends on Radio Sega, we have the Sonic Show Live with me and many people. We're going to be continuing hoping for the best when it comes to finishing up Team Sonic's storyline in Sonic Heroes. It's been officially confirmed that there will be another stream continuing with where we left off next week at the same time as this week at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 8 p.m. UK/GMT, and then of course at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 a.m. UK/GMT will be the return of the Sonic News Show, hopefully the way it's looking, with Radio Sega Edition. Now, as I said, there's still a chance that we may not have that happen, and there might be some change of plans. There might be a different amount of guests on that date. I can only guess that we'll know more for sure by Wednesday. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. But for now, consider it, very possible that Sonic News Show will be Radio Sega Edition on Sunday night. And that is your Sunday night Sonic lineup. It is insane how this is starting up. It's only on Sundays will this happen. And getting Sonic Rex, the Sonic Show, and Sonic Paradox, all 3 of them combined in one hilarious night, that's the perfect way to have your Sunday. But nevertheless, that is pretty much everything on my end. So I'm just going to retreat to my little Twitter account. I'm tweeting some things. And other than that, I do believe I will see you guys next Sunday. And if I don't see you next Sunday, like sometime within next week, I'll probably see you next Sunday either in the Radio Sega chat, at Sonic Show Live, or here around the same time next week. Again, Radio Sega Edition, hopefully. Like I said, it highly depends on all the people that show up and who, and if there will even be enough topics to talk about. But I'd imagine we can find a way. Nevertheless, I will see you guys soon. I'm going to put this up on YouTube now. If you have been watching this on YouTube the whole time, in the future, hi and bye. I'll see everyone next Sunday then. Uh, I'm gonna finish my drink now because I definitely need it after what has been a busy day for me. And I'll see you guys next Sunday. Take care, everybody. Oh boy, what a day. Later.